La 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 la. Oh baby. 25 days of sobriety left until I break it on July 4th, Saturday. That's my birthday. And thank you to those of you who decided to join me for the last 30 days of sobriety with me. 5 days in, have you got the shakes yet? If you're finding it a challenge, as you very well might be, then just hit me up and let me know how you're feeling. What does it feel like when you're taking a break from drinking and when you're abstaining, when you're trying to deprive yourself of some dopamine hit, whether that's drinking, whether that's smoking, whether that's junk food, when you feel that craving and you want to indulge and you want to get into it and knock yourself out, but then you telling yourself that you don't want to do it. You want to do something better. You want to abstain for a while. What is that experience like for you? Do you feel anxious or do you just feel bored? One thing I should have mentioned in my previous episode is actually the mental framework or the steps that I tell myself. It's not a 12-step program. It's much simpler than that. It's just a few things I tell myself when I am not drinking, when I am certain that I won't drink, what compels me and what makes me so certain that I can keep that promise. It's not 100% sure, but remember, when I tell myself that I promise to do something, then I have to do it, like put out an episode once a week. And when I promise to my girlfriend, who I promised with that I would not drink for a certain amount of time, then it becomes more real. Then it's like, oh, it's my word at stake. And as a man, as an adult, as a functioning human being, to live in this world, I feel like word as a principle, keeping your word is paramount. It's so important to keep your word. So for me, I have to keep my word at least 99% of the time, as I mentioned last time. And then if I promise, oh, there's a lot more pressure on it. So I got to do that. I got to stick to my promises no matter what. And, giving some minor leeway for extenuating circumstance and da 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 da. But not that we all know when we're making an excuse for something that we could really just improve upon. We all know when we're making excuses for something when we don't do or do something when we don't do something we should do and when we do something we shouldn't do. We all make excuses, and deep down inside we know what's genuine and what's not. And it wasn't just a promise I made to my girlfriend, but also telling people that I'm going to do this for a long time, making a sort of public declaration amongst my friends that I'm taking a break. That also puts my reputation at stake. And if I follow through on my word and I say, hey guys, like I'm going to take a break from 30 days, you're welcome to join me. If I follow through with that 30 days or 60 days or 90 days, 120 days, then people are going to respect me all the more for it, right? And that's just going to improve my reputation, right? So if you do that publicly and you follow through, then people are going to respect you more. And even if, maybe you make a mistake, maybe you follow through with it, but then, you get back on the horse right away, right? People will respect that you're trying. And I would respect you for trying. If this is something that's challenging for you, something that's out of your comfort zone, if you wanted to even take a break, even from today, right? You don't have to do 30 days, but 25 days, 20 days, whenever you're listening to this, whenever you are listening to this, why don't you give it a shot? This is actually really funny. I hope the irony isn't lost on anybody that as a club promoter, a big party promoter who loves to drink and party, who sells alcohol, selling tables to VIPs who want to ball out and have a good time, to encourage people to take a break if this is something that you feel like would benefit you. It's kind of funny that I'm doing this, right? It's like the opposite of preaching to the choir. It's like I'm telling you not to even come to church, but that's not true. I would still tell you to come to the club or come hang out with me at the bar. It's just that we're not going to be drinking. One last thing I'd like to share before I jump into this episode is that I just had a really super dank green smoothie. And I mean a green smoothie, as in this is the first smoothie I've made that has no fruits, like no banana or apple like I normally do. I just put in greens, cucumber, kale, lettuce, genip, which is the Korean perilla leaves that are kind of bitter, and some other stuff because I was inspired by someone who I met on Saturday. I met him at the bar of all places, and I had my own green shake. I brought it to the owners of the bar because they always hook me up, and so I wanted to bring some awesome green shake that had like veggies and frozen fruits inside. And then I even offered it to this guy who I just met. He was a friend of a friend at the bar, and he said, "No thanks. Like make completely green smoothies just with veggies. I don't need to put bananas or apples or none of it. And it kind of blew my mind. I was like, what? You just put completely veggies? And he's like, yeah. And he says he even puts like, maybe like onions or some other stuff, just like all veggies. I was like, whoa. He said he even put like gochu. He even put chili peppers in it. I was like, whoa, I got to try this stuff. He said he even put peppers in it. That's crazy. So that's what I'm going to do. And I made this awesome green smoothie. And I just looked at the color and I was like, oh my God, this looks awesome. And then when I ingested it, even though it smelled like freshly mown lawn, it tasted good. Like I'm so lucky. I'm so glad that my palate has finally changed, that I can really appreciate when I consume something like that. It's not like the dopamine hit of, eating ramen or McDonald's. It's something different. It's something more subtler, but it's something so much more substantial. And I feel great. I can eat one of those every day. And you know what? I think I will do that. I think I'll eat like just a pure green smoothie every day from now on. With some, some fruits there here and there. Maybe occasionally I'll throw some fruits in if I want a dessert or like to treat myself. But, I don't want to put more and more. I want to put less sugar, into the stuff that I eat, even if that's natural sugars and fruit. I don't know. I just want to feel that like I just want to eat something healthy and learn to appreciate eating something that tastes healthy, even if that doesn't initially taste good. You know what I'm saying? As much as I love fruits like apples and bananas, I don't think I even need them to put in a smoothie to appreciate the green energy the green fibers, that I get from a pure green smoothie. So I don't know. I'll try that for a while and see how it goes. Because if you know me, I like strong, hard liquor, like a good glass of whiskey, good fine whiskey. And I like strong black coffee, that's just like, ooh, it's just, that feeling when you get sip of like black, if you ever drink, if you guys like caffeine as much as I do, because I certainly love caffeine and I love a good cup of strong black coffee. And now I realize I love green dank smoothies. Put it in my mouth. Give me that hard, intense energy. I'm an intense guy, or at least I like intense things. And so I'm going to live an intense life. And jump into this episode. Thank you for listening. Oh yeah. You know what time it is. It's MAIM time. For today's episode, this is going to be me sharing a cheeky little story. You might as well call it story time more than MAIM time. I'm going to talk about how a telemarketer screwed me over, how upset I got about it, and how it taught me to be a better person and find inner peace. Basically, around the time that I was getting ready to launch this podcast with the first few episodes, I was, as you imagine, in a very busy period. I mean, this year has been so busy, of course, but that time was, pretty hectic. It was kind of crunch time. I felt a little behind in launching the podcast and getting ready for this and that. And one of those days, I got a call from a telemarketer working for one of the phone companies in Korea. I should give you some background. There are 3 major telephone companies in Korea. For the sake of this episode, I will say that my phone carrier at the time was ABC Company, and the Wi-Fi that I used was provided by XYZ Company. South Korea is known for having the top mobile and broadband internet connection speeds in the world. It's also not the cheapest. And with so many people in the country already owning smartphones, already paying for data, each customer that is acquired means a big deal, because each customer that stays with one company as time goes on adds up to hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to any given phone company. So competition is very fierce. This is just my understanding, so take it with a grain of salt. Imagine there's a customer of ABC Company who only uses ABC phone service, but his internet service is provided by XYZ Company, and that's my case. If a telemarketer hired by ABC Company can convince a current customer of ABC's phone service to also subscribe and pay for ABC's internet service, switching over from XYZ, then that telemarketer gets significant pay. It's a big incentive. I can't fact check this immediately, but let's say it's something like, I don't know, over $400, right? So you would be pretty incentivized to get lots of phone calls out to customers. Like, it's like, hello, sir, we noticed you use ABC phone service, but not internet service. Like, are you interested in switching over? Right. You would do whatever you can to kind of appeal to another customer. Be like, if you switch over at this time, we'll give you a big discount, yada, yada, yada. That's what happened to me. A telemarketer from ABC company called me months ago and said if I was interested in switching over. I was like, oh yeah, I've been using XYZ internet for a while and I'd love to switch over to ABC company so I could get that, phone internet discount and, just like have, consolidate my services, right? So I don't have to worry about paying one company for this and one company for that and just pay one company for two things, right? That just makes sense. The problem here was that I was locked into this contract with XYZ company. So basically my previous flatmate who I lived with, he had the contract under his name, but he wanted to move out. So he asked me if I wanted to take over the contract. And I said, sure, without really looking at the terms and conditions of how long the contract was going to last or how much I was going to be paying per month. And so that was a big newbie mistake. Don't do what I did. If you're living with someone and they pay for the internet contract, right, your flatmate, if they're moving out and they want to give over the contract to you, look at it carefully, please, before you do something you regret like I did, which is get locked into a contract where I had to pay, I don't know, let's say it was something like $30 a month, like it really overpriced for years, for a couple years on end, and like me not really know what to do with it because I haven't been the wisest with my time and money. Because you can't just pay internet to some phone company for a few months and they're like, okay, well, I'm moving out or I don't want to pay for this internet anymore. You can't do that. They make you sign like a 2-year contract or something. And if you break this contract, there's a big penalty fee. And in this case, it was something like over 400,001, right? Roughly $400. So like, geez, I don't want to pay that much. I'm just gonna, even if it is expensive, like it's better to pay 20 to $30 a month for the internet because I'm roped into this contract. If I break it, then I have to pay over 400. So that's what I've been doing. And I was able to call XYZ company and ask them to lower it like as time went on. But, it still wasn't something I was really satisfied with. Then here comes this telemarketer and from ABC company. And I explained to him the situation and he says, oh, well, if you give us like like an email of that contract and like your personal like information, blah, 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 then we can sign you up and we can pay for it. And I was like, oh, really? The guy said, yes, just email it to us and we'll look at it. And then we'll pay for we'll pay for the penalty fee for you breaking KT contract. I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, I guess ABC company does have a lot of money. So I guess they could do that. And I guess maybe it's worth it for them to have me come over as a customer to do that. This is another one of those things, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. But, I just took the guy at his word. So what happened was the first phone call, I explained to him that, because of the contract, I can't switch over my internet from XYZ company to ABC company. And he said, okay, sir, well, please send us the email or please check the terms and conditions and let us know how much that penalty fee is. And I think we can pay for it. So then the second time he called me like a day or two later and I said, oh, sorry, I've been busy. I haven't had time to check that contract with XYZ company to see how much it is. And he said, you know what, sir, it's fine. You don't need to send that to us right now. Just give us your personal information and we'll sign you in your payment information and like we'll sign you, or not your payment information since I already pay them for phone service. So they already have that. So I was like, okay, well, that's great. Yeah. Well, thank you for saving me, time and money. Because if you combine phone and internet plans, right, you end up paying less for both. So a day or so goes by, and then the ABC company technician comes by to install the ABC company internet, right? But in order for that guy to come into my apartment and install the ABC internet cables, basically what he needs to do is go into like this veranda part of my apartment and open the window and bring in a cable from outside. But in order to do that, two things needed to happen. First, I needed to clear out I needed to clear out all my stuff, just like all my bags. Like that was like a storage part of my apartment where it's just like a big dusty mess. So I was like, oh, darn it. Like I have to clear out all this stuff just so the guy can get back there, open the veranda window and then bring in the cable. But then also he needed to go up through my landlord's rooftop apartment because the only way to access the rooftop of the building to install the cable is through the landlord. So, I that felt burdensome to my landlord. So I asked, thank God she was home that day. And I said, is it okay if the technician comes and goes through your apartment to go up to the rooftop and install anything? You know how it is. So I was just like, hauling ass and doing this and that to get it done. I was just like, okay, well, this is going to save me money, right? Like I'm moving all this stuff, I'm sweating, and this guy is coming to install, ABC internet, so I can just pay for ABC company for my phone and internet. I'm saving money. I'm consolidating my payments, blah, 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 right? I'm making the right decision in my mind. So the ABC company technician does a good job. And then he says, okay, the last step for you, sir, is to call ZYX company and ask them to discontinue the service. So that's what I do. He leaves and I call XYZ company, and the guy on the other end of the phone, he says, okay, sir, if you want to discontinue the phone, you'll have to pay over 400,000 won for that penalty fee for ending the contract early. And I said, wait, what? I thought that ABC company said that they were going to cover that fee, but I've never done this before. I don't actually know how this works. And so the XYZ company guy said, well, sir, please talk to them and let us know what they say. So then I'm thinking, oh, what have I gotten myself into? I should have been more thorough or asked more questions about like how ABC company is actually going to follow through with paying for the penalty fee for me ending my contract with XYZ early. I just took the guy at his word. So then that's a red flag, right? And then I called ABC company the next day or whatever. And it turns out that guy who was talking to me, the telemarketer assigned to me, has left the company, meaning where I'm stuck in this position where I have to keep paying for ABC internet as well as my existing XYZ contract. So basically I was ripped off. The guy just wanted to get his incentive and make a payday for himself and then just leave the company. That's what I figured from my end. This was after weeks of back and forth talking to this guy about the bill and the switching over and how they're going to pay. To be honest, it's been a while, so I don't remember all the details. But the point here being is that, I got ripped off by this guy. I was deceived. I was wronged. I was a victim. And the boss apologized to me and he said, hey, what that guy did was what he said to you was wrong. And I'm sorry, we can't pay you that 400,000 won, that $400 whatever penalty fee from XYZ company. Sorry about that. And I was livid, because like these people were supposed to save my time and money, but there they were like wasting my time, like deceiving me. I can't blame the whole corporation, but this is what happens with big corporations like this. It's just like there's who can take responsibility for something like this when there's one person incentivized to screw over a customer like me who just takes him at his word, And so I should have known better, right? Like that's my fault as an adult for not being more thorough. But basically what that meant is I had to call the ABC guy to remove the internet and then call the XYZ technician to come back and reinstall the XYZ like internet cable and modem and router, right? You can imagine what that's like. So, it's just like another phone call, another thing I have to do, these people wasting my time. So then, what I thought? I thought, what? I'm going to switch over from ABC phone company to XYZ company because I thought, well, if they don't want to pay the $400 penalty fee for me to break my XYZ contract like that guy said ABC company would, if they're not going to stick to their word, then you know what? I'm just going to switch over from ABC company phone service to XYZ. So I'm paying XYZ for both internet and phone service. And at the time, I was paying ABC company 69,000 won a month, right? 69,000 times 12 months is 828,000 won. So that's roughly $800 a year. Well, ABC company, you don't want to stick to your word and pay $400 for my penalty fee? Well, you just lost $800 a year because I'm not your customer anymore. Not only that, not only are you using those hundreds of dollars from me as a customer, I'm just going to tell everyone else how ABC's company screwed me over. And you're going to lose thousands of dollars, right? And I'm starting a podcast, the MAIM TIME Show. Don't you know who I am? I'm working media and entertainment. People know me. I know people. Oh my goodness. It's so funny, right? The ego. My ego. But really, what am I being? Really, I'm just an angry, scared, sad little boy, right? Who is trying to figure things out. And then when he talks to people over the phone in Korean, because I don't speak Korean that well, or I'm not that confident because it stems from deeper personal issues from when I was a kid, feelings of inferiority because I couldn't learn Korean well, because I couldn't understand or express myself, right? Those deep-seated insecurities that people won't understand me, that people won't want to connect with me, that people aren't on my side, right? It manifests this fear and this insecurity and this anger, this sadness manifests itself in my adult life in situations like this when I feel misunderstood or when I feel taken advantage of, especially when I don't speak Korean that well. So in a situation like this, who do I call? I call a really good mentor of mine that I've known over the years, my sunbae, my mentor. And I told him this situation as I explained it to you, dear listener. And he said, Mime, this is one of those stories. This is one of those great examples of how you can learn and come to peace, as I've told you in the past. And so this mentor of mine who's read A Course in Miracles, which I haven't, but I know Eckhart Tolle is about that stuff as well. And I'm a big fan of Eckhart Tolle and The Power of Now. So if you like that stuff, then this will resonate with you. Basically, my mentor told me, you can't judge him. You can't judge that telemarketer guy. You don't know his situation. Maybe he has a kid to support and is just doing whatever it takes, right? And that means like he doesn't care if he rips off, customers, if that means like, he can take care of his child or whatever, or even if he is like a scumbag or whatever. You just don't know the situation. You don't know where they come from. Like, so how can you really judge? You can be angry, what that guy did was wrong, but you have to think about how you're reacting to it, Mime. And so my mentor tells me this. He says, number one, when you're in a situation like this, you tell yourself, I'm never upset for the reasons I think. Again, number one, I'm never upset for the reasons I think. Number two, I could see peace instead of this. I'm in control. No one can take the peace of God away from me but me. And so whatever I do in a situation like this going forward, when I call ABC Company customer service and ask them for a refund for the ABC internet installation fee, as well as the XYZ internet reinstallation fee, asking them to reimburse me for that, I'm not going to go at it with hostility. I'm not going to take it out on that manager because it wasn't necessarily that manager's fault. And even if it is, it just doesn't help for me to take out my anger on someone else like that, because in the end, I have control over my emotions and I have control over my peace. And I'm never upset for the reasons I think. That's number one. Number two, I could see peace instead of this, and peace can come back to me. And number three, this is what my mentor said. Number three, say, Holy Spirit, please help me to look at this differently. Let me have a shift in perception. Help me to have a different interpretation. And it doesn't have to be the Holy Spirit. It could be God. It could be Jesus. It could be Buddha. It could be your ancestors. It could be, Allah, right? Help me to look at this in a different way. Let me have control of my peace. It's okay to have these triggers, is what my mentor told me. These things are going to happen to you in life. And you should actually be grateful for that ABC Sagikun, that guy who frauded you, right? That guy who ripped you off for your time, because this is an opportunity for you to forgive and grow. And not only that, like I saved, 26,001 a month going forward because I switched my phone service to XYZ company, right? So on a practical level, yeah, I should thank that guy for ripping me off and convincing me to switch over from ABC to XYZ, or, impelling me to do so, because I am saving more money now, right? Saving $20 a month than what I did previously. So, and, and also like, it doesn't really matter because, these phone corporations, like in a way, they're all the same. They're just like these big, kind of soulless entities. I mean, that's like for a different discussion to go into. But, this could have happened if I was a longtime phone customer of XYZ company, but I had my internet through ABC company, right? And maybe there would have been some, like jerk telemarketer telling me lies to switch over from ABC company to XYZ phone service. You get the point, right? Like it doesn't matter. These things, like, they're not some things I need to take personally. These things happen to different people in different situations. And what really matters is, can you transcend these circumstances and find peace and solidarity, like, within yourself? Can you find peace with your ego? Can you change that negative energy, come to peace with it, and then make something better out of your life? And so, I went through that, like, it really like bothered me, that feeling like this guy, he really messed with my time. Like, how can you do that to another person? How can you sleep at night, right? It's not like the guy was doing something super criminal or anything, but just the principle of it, right? I'm sure you might get upset if someone did that to you, if they said that they were going to do something for you, and then it turns out like they wouldn't follow through. It turns out like, oh, they were just doing something to take advantage of you and then leave, right? Someone made money at your expense, and then they're not around to take responsibility for it. What would you do if you saw that person on the street and you heard their name? Because I know this guy's name, right? And so sometimes I think, oh, if I see this guy in the street and I hear his name, because he has a unique name. If I see this guy in the street and I hear his name, or I'm at a business meeting or something, and I just kind of like politely ask him, like, hey, like, what's your career? Like, did you ever work for, ABC phone company? Or really? Did you think it was right when you did this? Blah, 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 blah. I work for a media company. I mean, I run a media company and I'm MAIM TIME. Do you know who I am? Blah, 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 blah. I'm going to make sure you never work in this town again. Do you have any idea who I am and how busy I am? Like, I'm trying to pursue my dreams. I'm trying to change the world, and you're messing with my time. Like, I'm a good person. How can you mess with me like that? Blah, 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 blah. And, I just want to stick it to the man, like this big corporations, they can't rule us. Really, like there's these corporations, they're not ruining my life. They're not trying to like hurt me or anything. They might be making money at like people's expense, but the bigger point is that the problem is not with ABC company or XYZ company or that guy, that telemarketer from ABC company who did something wrong, right? The problem is deep within me, and it's like my own demons I have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. So when situations come like this one, can I come to peace? Am I going to let other people or situations take away my peace? I have to believe that I can do better. I have to believe that I can become a better person. And also, frankly, I mean, this is not really like that guy really isn't worth, like my negative emotion like that. There are bigger problems in the world that deserve like more anger, perhaps, if you want to think of it that way in terms of proportion. And what my mentor tells me is that this stems from deeper ontological guilt, this guilt of separation from God. And I mean, that's for another topic as well. But, you could simply say that it's pain from your childhood. And so I can look at this pain, I can look at this anger, and I can heal it. I can be more joyful and peaceful. It's not about the ABC guy. It's all about me. I'm never upset for the reasons I think. I could see peace instead of this, taking my power back. I asked the Holy Spirit, Jesus, Allah, Buddha, whoever to help me. I'm taking ownership. It's not about victimization. Well, me being angry and indignant, me being like, oh, like I have power, like you screwed me over. Well, I'm going to get back at you. I'm going to be mad. That's actually comes from a place of fear because you don't know what to do. So you think like that's the right thing to do. But actually that that victimhood mentality, that anger is like, oh, that guy wronged me. Well, I'm going to get him back. That's giving away your peace. And actually that seems like a show of force, like a show of strength. Like, oh, you mess with me. Well, I'm going to mess back with you. You can't do that to me. I'm going to mess with you. You're going to regret that you ever did that. That is actually not true strength. That is actually weakness. That is actually fear manifesting itself in terms of anger. You might disagree, and this might not apply to every single situation. And, we could argue over semantics, like, if you fight with your wife about this or that. But I think this is generally a universal principle that I found to be true. It's we're pointing the finger at something outside of ourselves. I'm pointing the finger at something outside of me. I'm always extending blame to the world, but am I really 100% owning everything from my end? Am I completely focused on my own locus of control? So what I want to do is I want to extend peace to the people I talk to. I want to extend peace to the world, even when bad things happen to me, even when people do things to me that, maybe are just like really effed up, like really like I didn't deserve something, but I don't need to take that so personally. I no longer want the unholy instant of judgment and attack. I want the holy instant of forgiveness and peace. Boom. No one can take away the peace of God. Only you can take it away. I feel like I'm giving a sermon now. Because it kind of is. And it's funny because that was my dream years ago to become a pastor. But I feel like I'm doing something more powerful now. And so when I feel the peace, when I can take a few deep breaths in moments like this and re-examine myself and examine my heart and make a decision as to which way I want to go, and I want to be a better person. I want to be the bigger person. I don't want to rest on these feelings of guilt. I want to forgive because we've all made mistakes, because I could have been, I've made some decisions in my life that I'm not proud of. I've done things that I'm ashamed about. And, I would like forgiveness from other people or from God or for the universe for the things that I've done in my past. And so if that's the case, then I also want to be able to extend that forgiveness to other people, whether or not they've done something wrong towards me. And, it also, again, that whole anger, that moment of like, oh, that person like did me wrong. I'm going to get back at them. Again, that's being super weak, giving your power away, you're giving all your power away to an external situation. It's the funny thing, like it's the opposite of what you think. When you say, "Oh, that guy screwed me over. No, I'm gonna get them back." It's the opposite of what you think. That's the funny thing about life. It comes from this deep unconscious guilt that's unresolved. And I should be grateful that this moment manifested itself now with this telemarketer guy situation. I should be grateful that came out now, because these kinds of things will repeat again and again in my life, as they have. These things can come out worse later. So imagine if this rage came out in another situation that's far greater, or imagine if I went that far. And to be honest, I would, you know, not be that dumb to like go into some kind of lawsuit against the ABC company, because frankly, they have all the money and way better lawyers than I could ever afford. It wouldn't have helped anyone to just go down that route of vengeance. I don't want to live with that pain and that guilt and that suffering anymore. I want to deal with it head on. I want to look at it and I want to forgive it. And I want to look at myself in the mirror, see the little scared, angry boy mime inside, and I want to give him a hug, and I want to tell him I understand his pain and that everything's going to be okay, and that I'm sorry for all the crappy things that happened, but that he has power and that he has choice to grow up into a superior human being who will live the best life possible. Because really, success is the best revenge, as they say, right? To hold onto like this hatred and bitterness and there's resentment in almost any shape or form is really just like holding onto a hot coal and expecting it to, burn your enemies, right? That's like a Buddhist saying. And I don't really know if enlightenment is a thing, or I guess it depends on how you define enlightenment, what that looks like. Perhaps it's just 24/7 present to the moment awareness, even if thoughts come in and out, you're just completely present all the time. And you're always like being like the silent observer of your thoughts in your world. Well, if that's maybe that's possible. Maybe I'll reach that in my lifetime. Maybe I won't. But until then, I don't think of this place where it's over, like, and I'm completely forgiven of everything. I think forgiveness and thinking about people in your past, whether like it's my mom or my dad or Korean society or this person or that person or my brothers, right? Whatever happened to me and whatever like trauma and negative emotion that arises out of that, whatever hatred, anger, fear, bitterness, I have to come to it and examine it every time and ask myself, where does it come from? And then just like look into it and breathe into it and accept it for what it is and forgive myself and the world. And I think what I'm trying to say is this is a skill. This is like a muscle. So you can sort of like meditate and forgive your way towards enlightenment. And not that enlightenment is this the destination, but the journey. It's the journey of healing that is really important, because what if again this is like the thousandth time you've lived this lifetime and you have to just keep living and suffering until you learn your lessons. That might not be like physically, cosmically, philosophically, metaphysically true. Like, you die and you just die. That's it. Your consciousness doesn't go into another form. But just imagine that it did, right? How is this the way you would want to be living life? Just as a spiritual exercise, a spiritual thought exercise. Like, how do you want to be? What kind of person do you want to be before you die? I don't want people to look at me thinking that, I lost control into anger and I gave into my darker emotions. I want people to think that even though maybe I had a right to say indulge or to give into, dark emotions when things in life just didn't really go my way, when things or, I experienced things that perhaps I didn't deserve. I needed to go through those things to become a better person. And I don't know how to say this because it sounds kind of effed up, but in a way, I am grateful for all the terrible things that have happened to me growing up, all the challenges, all the minor annoyments, all the little grievances, minor and big, because they made me who I am. And I think I've become a better person out of it, a better person, and I've become more compassionate, and I've been more understanding, which gives me an opportunity to help others to heal as well. I think we're all put on this planet for a purpose, right? As cheesy and cliche as all of this sounds, we all have a purpose, we all have a voice, and I want to contribute towards humanity's evolution because I mean, this 21st century is a pretty awesome time to be alive. Like, I'm so happy with my day-to-day life. Every day I see something so amazing. I see this beautiful city that is Seoul. I see all this awesome stuff going on, and there's all these awesome projects and endeavors that I can be a part of with amazing people that I love and respect. You know, my life is so awesome, and all the things that happened in my past, good and bad, had to happen for me to be here. And I want to be part of some sort of greater movement, some sort of greater spiritual human renaissance where we can be the first generation of people who look back at all the dark past, and we can be the first generation of people who can forgive the pain. We can forgive what our parents did and what their parents did. We can forgive, and we can stop this cycle of Han, you know, the Korean bitterness and sadness, right? Like, that's for another discussion. What is Han and what is Jung? And I want to lean more towards Jung, which is like this feeling of Korean generosity and compassion, and deal more positively with this Han. And I don't hear people talking about this, but I believe that if we are able to forgive ourselves and forgive other people in our lives and forgive the world, forgive God or the devil or whatever, if we can find more ways towards forgiving ourselves and loving each other more, then instead of letting this dark negative energy, which is like contracted and dense into our hearts, like you can actually feel this energy, you know, when you meditate or when there's some sort of trigger from your past, something that upsets you or annoys you, you can feel your body getting tense. Okay. That contraction, that dense dark energy, right? Imagine if that was freed up in all of humankind. Like, if imagine if all that dark contracted energy was released in a positive way, and like the light of consciousness and presence was able to melt away that pain and dissolve it into forgiveness and to lightness. Well, then that would mean um exponential how do I say this? It would mean like so many people would have a lighter heart, and they would physically have lighter beings. Like, we would physically become lighter human beings. Our experience of our day-to-day lives would be much lighter because we wouldn't have this emotional heaviness dragging us down in the background, this dark refrigerator hum of darkness and pain from our past. Imagine if all of that went away. Imagine if that brain fog went away on a day-to-day basis for so many human beings. Like, what if that could happen for Korea? What if we could forgive the pain from like that our parents inflicted on us, from all the crazy stuff that happened in these crazy wars, right? In the Korean War. What if I could forgive my parents and I could just become a lighter person? Well, I would become a more efficient top performer, right? I mean, using that fire, using pain is a great leverage point to become a better person. Using pain is a great leverage point. But what if you could take I think you could take an even farther step further. You could take a farther step if you like forgave yourself, because then that heaviness would go away, it would go into lightness, and then you could become a more fuel efficient burning human being overall, because you would spend less mental energy. You would be right, because if you think about it, a brain generating thoughts, right? Where do the thoughts come from? Well, if thoughts are a form of energy, you need energy, right? So, you know, I might argue that thoughts come from calories, right? You eat some food, right? And that sustains your brain, the nutrients and whatever goes into your brain. Well, thoughts come from your brain. So where do thoughts come from? Well, they come from some form of energy, you might argue. So what if like we could change all those negative thoughts, those thoughts that are distracting us from the things that we need to do, the thoughts that are distracting us, holding us back from being the best versions of ourselves on a day-to-day basis. What if we could remove all that? Well, wouldn't humanity be uplifted into, I don't know, something close to nirvana, something close to an interstellar utopian civilization where nothing holds us back but ourselves? But even that we have overcome. Anyways, one thing led to another, and you know, I might not always be coherent, but I want to tell you how much I appreciate you guys listening to this, fam. Thank you so much for listening to this. And I hope that you find peace in a day to day life, right? And whatever pain and struggle you go through is yours to suffer through, is yours to deal with. So you are alone. But at the same time, there's so many other people suffering as well. Like we're all in the same boat, you know. And the funny thing is, we're all gonna die anyways, right? So it's a crazy world. It's a crazy life. But I hope that you're making the most of it. I sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, hope anybody listening to this is really making the most of their lives as much as I am, because I can tell you right now, like I'm so glad for my day-to-day life. And I want to just forgive everybody. I want to forgive myself. And I'm going to speed off to Valhalla. And I hope that some of you guys will take my hand and join me, right, as we go to the stars. I mean that physically, literally, and spiritually. I want humanity to ascend to higher states. So that's it for today's episode. Did any of this make sense to you? Or am I just going to woo, 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 woo? Is what I'm talking about too hippie or weird or not really practical or entertaining? Please let me know so I can do better, because I want you to have the best MAIM time you possibly can. And if you like the content, please share with a friend. Really appreciate it. Thanks for listening. God bless you. And tune in for the next MAIM time. Oh, baby.